What's up, guys? Johnny here. Welcome back to the channel. If you were with me last time, I did an unboxing of this little guy right here, the Flight Test Turbo Gremlin. And today what I want to do is I want to take the time to show you what I think about it, how I've been enjoying it, just the overall review of this frame. I've had a chance to take it to a racetrack. I've had a chance to do some freestyle in the backyard. And I can't wait to share my thoughts with you guys. Anyways, let's check it out. Alright guys, so here we go. We have the Turbo Gremlin from Flight Test. This is the Sidewinder Edition Gremlin. The idea being basically it's made for racing. It's meant to be the fast one. And what you'll notice first and foremost when you get this package and you check it out is it's nothing but high quality components. I'm a big fan of the HGLRC stacks. They go really well inside of micros. A nice 20 by 20 building platform. This one here includes everything you're going to need. It has its VTX built in. It actually has a 28 amp ESC. Probably a bit, overkill for an XT30 and a micro build, but it still has it. It has plenty of room for you. It's not going to treat you wrong. It just might be a little bit overkill for most builds. And then that F4 flight controller, the HGLRC flight controller, I've had real good luck running that on other builds, and so far it's been treating me real well here. So I got to hand it to Flight Test. They really went through and said we want to include top quality components, and they put top quality components in the box for you. Now, if you've watched the other video, you know that I got it as part of the World of Flight package. As part of that Indiegogo donation, they sent this package out to me. You can pick the same thing up for about $220. You can get the same exact components. So I want to share expectations with you if you happen to pick up the same thing. The other option that Flight Test does is you can actually have them build it for you. I don't remember if it's $50 or $100 for them to build it for you. I think it's 50 bucks. So that might be an option if you want something like this, but you don't want to go through the trouble of building it yourself. Anyway, I did go through the trouble of building this myself, and I built it with pretty much exactly what they said in the box with one difference. And that's this camera here in the front. What I decided to use was the Micro Eagle camera by Runcam. I've been really liking this camera lately. I have it on a few of my different quads. Just the picture quality you get out of it is outstanding. The detail is honestly higher than anything I would have thought possible on one of these analog cameras. I did not realize that my goggles could be as sharp as this camera provides. So I've been pretty impressed there. It is also an extremely wide field of view when you run it in 16:9, like I'm doing. But it does give you an option to zoom in. So it's a real interesting camera. The thing that's really cool about it is it actually fits inside this frame. I find that to be really impressive. It's really cool to get such a high quality camera in something so small these days. Anyway, the other thing you're going to notice is you look at this frame. And definitely when I took it out of the box, there's one thing that really jumped out at me. And that's just the amount of carbon you see when you take it out of the box. So you notice that the arms, they're pretty thick. You see these braces across the front. And I got to be honest with you, when you're working with a micro quad, weight is really important. And when I took it out of the box and I saw all this carbon that goes in the build, I got a little bit concerned that maybe the added weight of all this carbon is going to be to the detriment of its performance. So that had me a little bit nervous, but at the same time, I was eager to get it out to the field, get it out to the test track, and see how it was like to actually fly this thing. And the other thing too, when you look at this amount of carbon, is what you'd expect is because it is so thick, it should provide with a lot of durability in crashes. But the thing I also noticed is I'm not sure it's actually that durable, even with all this carbon there. So I noticed if I took the frame and I just decided to bend it, and this is again just very light pressure, it actually bends pretty easily inside that frame. I'm not sure if that really shows up on the camera or not, but that makes you a little bit nervous. If you took a look at my last micro review that I did, which is the Micro Ripper by RC Crazed, you'll notice here that the arms, they're actually significantly less thick. But at the same time, if I take it and I try to do that same bending, it does not bend nearly as much as this build here. And I think that might have to do with how the carbon was printed. But it was a little bit disappointing to see such a fat surface and yet so much flexibility as well inside that frame. So a little bit concerning there. I don't feel like the quality of the carbon or the cut of the carbon is really where it should be in these micros. I feel like this style works better. And the thing I noticed too is when I put them on the scale, this thing came in about 8 grams heavier than this frame here. So definitely something to watch out for. They're very similar builds, but 8 to 10 grams, that's a really big impact when you talk about something that's this size. I believe this one was actually 94 grams all built, and this one here came in at around 84, 86 grams. So that's a pretty big difference for a micro. All right, so anyway, the other thing too I want to talk about is the way that you mount batteries on this thing. It actually has these two little knobs on the sides, and it comes with these black rubber bands that would wrap around the battery. And I have to tell you, the first crash I had with this thing, those things went flying. I lost one of the rubber bands. I couldn't put it back on the battery. I wound up grabbing just a regular old rubber band to use instead. Not really ideal, but I don't quite understand the choice of these little notches in the rubber bands. It didn't work out so well for me. I really prefer something like this, just a standard Velcro strap. It works really well. I got my little rubber paddle here on the bottom. This thing has served me really well. Lots of crashes done really well. Not so much for these things here. Just something to keep in mind. So anyway, even with this all said, I said, all right, let's take this out to the course. Let's get it set up. I'm actually running a pretty tight, I would say, or somewhat tight 5-inch course. Let's put this thing on the course. If you listen to flight test guys, they'll tell you this thing keeps up with a 5-inch, right? They can almost take out 5 inches. They're racing against 5-inch quads. Well, I gotta say, when I first ran it on my 5-inch track, results were pretty lacking. I was actually really disappointed when I first tried this thing on the 5-inch track. I don't know exactly why I had this problem, but what I noticed is just that the sag got to this thing real early. That track was real big for this thing. I pushed it pretty hard. And after about a minute and a half of running a 650 milliamp hour 3S pack, this thing was basically spent. I could not make it 2 minutes around that track with this particular quad running a 650 milliamp hour 3S pack. And that was pretty disappointing. Those same packs, or what I run this thing on, this thing will run 3.5 minutes no problem. Now, it's not quite fair to compare them as this is a 4,500 kV motor and this is a 6,000 kV motor, but still going from a minute and a half to 3.5 minutes, that seemed like a massive difference that didn't quite get explained by those different motors. So one thing I started to wonder about is if you do look at the profile where these blades spin, a lot of the down force from these props is actually being blocked by this carbon. Versus when you look at this quad, there's very little carbon getting in the way of that down force. Maybe that is contributing somewhat to the efficiencies. The added 10 grams as I fly these things around, maybe that's adding to some of that deficiency, right? That lack of efficiency. Combined with also the higher kV motors, I feel like it just is a significantly less efficient package than you're going to get with something like this, a little bit smaller, more compact, maybe a little higher performance. Now that being said, I did wind up switching out to some of the 850 milliamp hour 3S packs, and I feel like that really found the sweet spot with this particular quad. I didn't have a chance to take that out to the racetrack again, but I did notice even in the backyard, 2 minutes of freestyle is about all I was getting. With that 850, I can push this thing 2.5, maybe 3 if I take it a little bit lighter, and that's enough for me to just go out and just have a great time. And the bottom line is, what I find is that if I were to choose between these particular 2.5-inch style quads, I much prefer the RC Craze Micro Ripper. Just the build is a lot more compact, it takes up less space, it weighs less, and therefore it gets around a racetrack better for me. So I like that build. But at the same time, if I just want a quad to go out in the backyard, rip around in some places a little bit more micro-friendly, I have so much fun with this thing. I have a lot of fun with this thing too, but really I have about the same amount of fun with each. And so what that's really saying is both these quads are built with top-end components. Both these quads perform really well. This one might perform a little bit better, but still, if you look at the footage of just doing some of that freestyle, this thing just performs great. Has tons of punch. It flies real smooth. It's a lot of fun to fly, and really when it comes down to it, I think with the Turbo Gremlins, it's really all about the fun of flight, and that's the thing to keep in mind when flying these things. I know Flight Test is talking about, hey, we can run this thing against 5 inches, it's going to beat 5 inches around a racetrack. Don't expect that, right? Around something that's really, really tight and technical, this thing can compete with a 5-inch. This thing can compete with a 5-inch. But even on those tracks, in the right hands, the 5-inch is still going to beat it. It's real hard to find that track where this will really be better. But because they are so small, light, and nimble, you can get around those technical tracks. But don't let that think you're going to take it out in the winter, after the winter when the summer months are coming. The track's get a little bit more open, a little bit bigger. Everyone's running 5 inches. This thing's going to be left in the dust. Keep that in mind when you look at these things. Buy this thing because you want to go out and have a lot of fun in maybe some smaller areas. Buy this because you want to fly more technical tracks, fly it in micro races. If you do that, you're not going to be disappointed. It is going to perform well. However, if you want the absolute best performance, I probably would look somewhere else. I definitely would take a look here at the RC Crazed Micro Ripper. I think this is a fantastic choice. There's definitely some other really good choices out there too. But I just want to share that with you guys. Hope you're not too disappointed. I do enjoy this thing. I just recommend something else as a little bit better. And I wanted to share those thoughts with you guys. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys pick one of these things up? How are you enjoying it? Maybe, what are you enjoying from micro quads? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear from you. And anyways, as always, guys, I'll catch y'all next time. Peace!